3 years ago, I had what most people would call the perfect life. A $200,000 salary, dream job at Salesforce, a Fortune 100 company, and living in San Francisco, the heart of Silicon Valley. Today, I have none of that, and I've never been happier. Hi, hello, and vanakkam. My name is Soundarya Balasubramani. If this is your first time here, check out this 2-minute intro video about me. I am a 2-time author, founder of Unshackled, and a former product manager. If you're watching this video, you're probably thinking about quitting your job. Or maybe you're stuck in this weird place where you think that you're doing completely okay, but then something feels off. That was me exactly 5 years ago. I joined Salesforce as an associate product manager in 2019 after graduating from Columbia. I was offered a starting salary of $145,000 plus stocks. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. My parents were thrilled, extremely proud. I had moved to the new city, got a new apartment, and on paper at least, I was crushing it. But the truth is, this high that you feel when you join a new job and you start seeing money pour into your bank account, that high goes away sooner than later. I mean, in my case, it went away within a few weeks. I realized that objectively, on paper, while I was living the dream perfect life, my day-to-day job had little meaning for me. I mean, I would wake up and do things that I was good at, but I would just keep feeling like, if I were to die tomorrow, is this what I want to die doing? That's a very morbid thought, but honestly, it could happen to any one of us right now. And around that time, I also read a wonderful, brilliant memoir called Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It's the story of Nike's founder, Phil Knight. In that, Knight writes this very powerful sentence. He says, "Don't settle for a job or a profession or even a career. Seek a calling. Even if you don't know what that means, just seek it." So the first year out of college, I experimented a lot. I traveled to 5 countries: Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia. I tried my hand at being a freelance journalist, reached out to a ton of startups asking if I could cover their story. I published 10 articles in newspapers and publications. I read some 22 books, and I even tried starting 2 newsletters, both of which eventually failed. And then, against all odds, I found my calling when I least expected it. During the pandemic, when the entire world was shutting down, I was working on my first brainchild, a book called Admitted. I wasn't even planning to write a book like Admitted. Admitted is an all-in-one guide for anyone who wanted to study abroad. Back then, I just wanted to write a short guide on this, maybe 10 pages. But then, the more I kept writing this book, the more I didn't want to stop. I felt like there's so much more I want to say here, I want to write here. So I just kept writing, and after 9 months, this baby was born. Until I published Admitted, writing was always just a hobby. It was this thing that I did when I had some time outside of the main thing. But then after I published Admitted, I felt like this is my calling. Writing is my calling, and I want to seek it. I realized that I could be incredibly happy if I was doing this for the rest of my life, even if I don't make much money. So I thought to myself, why don't I? Why don't I quit my job and become a writer? So I had decided to quit my job, except that's when I ran into this incredibly frustrating thing called immigration. Immigration in America is like the golden handcuffs that you never wanted. It ties you to your job and company because of a piece of paper, your visa. Because your visa is tied to your job and employer, the moment you quit, your visa is also invalid and you have to leave the country. Back then, I wasn't ready to leave America. And so, long story short, I eventually quit my job at the end of 2021, 3 years ago. And I got something called the O1 Extraordinary Visa at the end of 2023 to work for myself through my own company. The first 6 months after quitting my corporate job was the hardest for me. 3 things happened in those 6 months. First, I faced a severe identity crisis. I mean, in those 6 months, anytime someone asked me, "So, what do you do?" I would stumble. I'd be like, well, I was a product manager. I'm trying to be a writer. So I guess right now I'm exploring. I'm not even sure what I am. We tie so much of our identity to our jobs because we spend 50% of our lives working, doing something. And so it took me a while to figure out what to say for that question. And more so, to tell myself what am I? I mean, who am I? If I quit my job and if I don't have a title, what does that leave me with? And so navigating that took some time. Second thing that happened, and I know nobody likes to talk about this, is money. I realized that money cannot buy happiness, but it sure as hell can rob you of it if you don't have enough. And the insane part was, it's not even that I didn't have money, I did. I had saved some money when I quit my job at Salesforce because I knew I would think about money and worry about it. But even though I had saved some money, I didn't have an education loan, and objectively I was fine. It was still eating at me in my brain. I still kept thinking every day that, oh my God, I mean, I'm not doing anything that's going to bring in stable revenue. What am I going to do? I felt really good walking away from $200,000 job. I mean, I still do. But then living in an expensive city like San Francisco, where the rent is through the roof, everything is expensive, it just, you start to really worry about money. And sadly, I wish this wasn't the case, but it also took away some of the creativity that I had back then. Because the moment I would sit down to, say, write a book or work on any creative project, somewhere along the thought process, money would enter the discussion and it'll like knock at me and be like, so what are we going to do about money? And so I really couldn't make any money because I was also tied to my visa back then. So I was working at this startup and I could only make money through that part-time job that I was having there. So throughout 2022, I made nothing until I began working on this second book called Unshackled, which eventually became a company. And I started to raise money through that. But one of the best lessons I learned about money in the last few years is, 3 years ago, if you had asked me, are you confident that you'll make money? My answer would have been absolutely not. I have no idea what I'm doing. Money is just an exchange of value. All of us, you, me, everyone has something that they can offer to this world. And it's just a matter of figuring out who needs it the most, who is willing to pay for it, and then finding that fit. And so even if everything I have today is taken from me, I know that I can make it back again. The third thing I learned is that you desperately need people around you after you quit your job. Life after you quit your job is quite lonely, actually. All of your friends around you will have their day job. They'll go for their 9 to 5, they have a steady income coming in. And then I'm just sitting there, spending time figuring something out, trying to read research papers, trying to write some articles, hoping something takes off. I mean, it's a pretty stressful and lonely time. And I don't think I could have gotten through that time if not for a few people in my life who I could rely on to call them anytime I felt like I don't think I can do this. I mean, I was surrounded by people who had full-time jobs and packed calendars. So even though I knew that I made the right decision by walking away from this job and I know long-term it's all going to be fine, in the short term, I was freaking out. And in those moments when I was freaking out, having just 2 or 3 people to call and freak out with was incredibly, incredibly helpful. Fast forward to today. I don't make a steady income. I don't have a shiny title at a company, and I'm not living in San Francisco right now. But none of that matters to me because I'm so happy. I feel like I wake up and I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I have the freedom to say no to things if I don't like it. I feel like what I'm working on is in some way contributing. It may be a really small scale, but at least I know how it's going to help people. And mainly, I'm getting to follow my life's calling, which is writing. Right now, as you can actually see, I'm living on a remote farm somewhere in southern India, working on my third book, 1,000 Days of Love. This has been a project that's been on my mind for 3 years. 3 years in the making, and I'm finally getting to work on it. And I can't tell you how spiritually fulfilling it is to do this right now. In the end, it is all a trade-off. I cannot categorically say that quitting your job is the better decision for anyone out there because it truly depends on who you are, what you want, what your financial situation is, who's around you, who can support you. So here's what I will say though. If your job isn't giving you the fulfillment, if you spend the few minutes before you sleep at night thinking, why am I doing this? if you're financially not in a very dire situation, and if you spend all of your free time during the day thinking about creating something, starting a YouTube channel, writing a book, building a company, getting a PhD, whatever it is, I think it's a hint. If you feel any of that, it's your body and your subconscious telling you that something is wrong and it's worth thinking further. And if you do feel like that, it may be worth reaching out to a friend, asking someone to talk to you, taking a long walk, journaling, whatever you can do that will give you the space to think more about it. Because what's worse than taking risks early on in life is never taking one and spending the rest of your life wondering, what if you had? Thanks so much for watching till here. If any of this resonated with you, hit subscribe and comment below what you would be doing today in life if money weren't an issue. By the way, I'm giving away 5 free memberships to my course, More Time Every Day. I created this course in the first year after I quit my job. The course teaches you how to build a planning system on Notion to live a life of balance and happiness. The course is worth $200. To enter the contest, all you have to do is visit go.1000daysoflove.com/giveaway and put your name and email. And I'll pick 5 people at random. Thanks so much for watching till here, and until next video, bye.